Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. This has been a terrible weekend in terms of people were losing in the boxing world. You know about George Foreman, I'm sure, passed away aged 76. Colin Hart, the journalist, died. I think he was 89 or 90. He died on Saturday. And they say things come in threes, don't they? Unfortunately, Livingstone Bramble, the former WBA lightweight champion and a very exciting, colourful fighter, he passed away on Saturday, 22nd of March 2025. Like I say, he was a very, very exciting fighter to watch. And he was a guy who, after he'd lost his title, went down the, I suppose you'd call him a gatekeeper or a journeyman, or, he picked up a lot of checks on his name, I suppose. Everyone wanted to fight him because of his, colourful name and style, and he had dreadlocks, and he was just a very, very entertaining, effervescent character, So he ended up, his career record was 40 wins with 25 KOs, because he could bang a bit. 26 defeats with 5 stoppages and 3 draws. So he had that patchy record, kind of like Freddie Pendleton, Buster Drayton. They lost a lot of, those were his contemporaries in that sort of era. But they lost a lot of fights, but it kind of belies how good they were, do you know what I mean? So Bramble was a fight anyone sort of guy, road warrior, spent a lot of time in the US. Actually, I call him a road warrior. I think most of his fights were actually in the US, even though he was from, was it St. Kitts or somewhere in the Virgin Islands, maybe? I can't remember. I think it might have been St. Kitts. But he'll fight anyone. He would fight anyone. And he won the title, the WBA lightweight title, in an upset against Ray Mancini in 1984. He stopped Mancini in 14 rounds. Mancini had busted up a badly cut lip, I seem to remember. And Bramble took the title, and then he made several defences, including a rematch with Mancini when he outpointed him over 15 rounds, the old 15-round distance. He had a good win, 13 round stoppage against Tyrone Crawley. That was a good win, good fight that was. And then he himself was, would you call it a big upset? Maybe, but a bit of an upset perhaps. Probably the manner in which he lost his title was shocking, and that was to Edwin Rosario. Rosario blew him away in 2 rounds. Fantastic victory for Rosario, and it was, again, the manner of the defeat was kind of shocking, because Bramble hadn't really shown any vulnerabilities at that point. And I think Bramble at the time only had 1 defeat on his record. He then drew with Freddie Pendleton. Pendleton, again, another guy with a very patchy record, but far, far better than that record suggests. Went on to become IBF lightweight champ. And he carried on having some wins, Edwin Cure, I think he fought him twice. He wasn't a bad fighter, sort of gatekeeper fighter. And then he fought, I think he had a rematch with Pendleton and got stopped in 10 rounds, which was a bad defeat for Livingston. And from there, even though he knocked out Harold Brazier in 2 rounds, he had some good wins. It was sort of a case of, from then on losing most of the fights, but having the odd upset, I remember when he fought over Carr. He floored Carr, I think, a couple of times in the first round, and Carr eked out, I think, a very, very narrow win, which a lot of people disputed. So he was a handful still, Livingstone Bramble, a great handful. And the Carr fight, Carr at the time was undefeated. That sticks in my mind, that fight. And I think he lost probably a split decision, I think it was, but it was very, very, very controversial. And he was losing decisions to people like Charles Murray and Rodney Moore, Roger Mayweather. He got disqualified against Roger Mayweather. I think he drew with Darrell Tyson, Buddy McGirt. He fought him and lost over 12. So he was going through the old, journeyman opponent mix, picking up paychecks. But he always gave a good account of himself. I mean, occasionally there'd be the odd shock. Like he went to Australia and got done in a round by Shannon Taylor, who at the time was undefeated and would fight Shane Mosley. And he'd lose to, I think, again, did he fight Charles Murray twice? He might have done. I can't remember. I think he did fight him twice. I know he fought one of the Ruelas brothers, Rafael Ruelas, who was the bigger of the brothers. He lost to him on points. So he had this have gloves, will travel attitude. And by the end of his career, he was losing 8 and 6 rounders to people he would have stood them on their heads, in his prime. But he was living off his name and collecting paychecks. But make no mistake about it, when he was champion, beating Mancini twice is no joke. Beating Tyrone Crawley's a good one. He was a threat. He was a good fighter. You don't go the distance with all those guys, those terrific fighters, when you're past your prime, if there's not something about you. And I remember when he knocked out Harold Brazier in 2 rounds. That was a shocker because Brazier could really fight. Brazier, I think, would go on to have like 100 fights or something like that. And I want to say that Harold Brazier took part in the final 15-round fight on record. I might be wrong about that. I'd have to check that. But Livingstone got rid of him in 2 rounds. So Livingstone Bramble, if you're of a certain age, you will remember him. He was always on the scene, always fighting good men, ducked absolutely no one, won a world title. Livingstone Bramble, rest in peace, mate, and thanks for the memories. And hopefully this is the final death we'll have this bloody weekend in boxing, because it's been an absolutely awful weekend. But yeah, if you remember Livingstone Bramble, leave some comments below. What were your favourite fights of his? What do you think of him? Yeah, whatever you got to say, leave it down below. I'll have a read. Anyway, thank you very much for your time. Please, if you like the video, hit the like button and subscribe. You know the drill. Thank you very much. As always, I'll catch you later. Bye for now.